everyone, and welcome to the Rankings Report. Forrest, 2017 closed out with no shortage of compelling fights.
Which leads us to compelling questions such as, would you rather be mauled by Khabib or punched by Francis Ngannou?
Oh my gosh, I don't know, neither? What would you pick?
Definitely mauled by Khabib.
Why is that?
Because that's 15 minutes of suffering, whereas being punched by Francis is a day of wondering why you can't find your other shoe.
I feel like you could still feel that way after you fight Khabib. Fortunately for all your other questions, we've got the UFC rankings. Forrest, take it away.
Each week, a panel of journalists ranks the top UFC athletes by weight class and overall, and the results are revealed Wednesdays on UFC Tonight.
You can see the latest list anytime at UFC.com/rankings. UFC 219, we saw Cris Cyborg defend her featherweight championship against Holm and move up one spot in the pound-for-pound rankings to number 9. What did you think of Cris Cyborg's performance?
I thought it was great. I think even as long as she's been in the sport, she's evolved. She looks better. I thought she was more tactically and technically proficient than I'd seen her before. She's kind of known for charging and running straight into people, but she didn't do that against Holly. She actually came out with a different game plan. She played the angles well. Even when Holly did things well, which she did, Cyborg countered well.
Yeah, a really gritty performance by Holm as well. It was a very close fight, but Cris Cyborg, as we were doing pre-fight interviews, she told me, as long as I stay patient, I'm going to win this fight, and she did.
She stayed patient. She was just aggressive enough, and you had to feel for Holly because I felt she did have a good game plan, and she definitely never took her foot off the gas.
Yeah, no, it was a great performance by both women there in the UFC featherweight division. Carla Esparza, the first ever strawweight champion, had a win at UFC 219, coming in as the underdog against hot prospect Cynthia Calvillo, which moved Carla up to number 6. What do you think's next for the former champion first in Carla Esparza?
It was a good win against a prospect. One thing I'll say is that Carla looked better on the feet than she's ever looked before. She was mixing her grappling and wrestling up. Remember, she actually lost the grappling exchange in the first round and came back to win striking exchanges in the second and third round. How that's going to translate to the top 5, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who the UFC matches her up with next. But then you've got Cynthia, who had a lot of hype behind her, still a very talented fighter. But I don't know if it's necessarily a step back as it is like a slowing down a little bit.
Had she won this fight, she was up for the murderer's row, the top 4 or 5. She would have been in that deep water. Now I think she's going to fight maybe not as tough competition, get a little more experience, get a little more octagon time, and continue to develop as a fighter without being under that huge spotlight.
Fight Night Fresno made it clear that featherweight Brian Ortega is the real deal as he dispatched Cub Swanson and moved up to number 3.
We knew he was going to, if he got a hold of Cub, we knew he was going to be able to choke him somehow. But I thought he set his clinch, his chokes, he set it up well. His striking looked good. He looked better than he's ever looked before, and he started a little quicker than he usually does. He's a very slow starter. I think, in a 5-round fight, I think Brian Ortega can do really well. And we'll see what happens with Frankie Edgar and Max Holloway, and we'll see who comes out of that. And maybe I'm rushing it, but I think Ortega could be ready.
January's got some heavy hitters to keep us watching. None more so than heavyweight champ Stipe Miocic taking on number 1 ranked Francis Ngannou at UFC 220. This fight is going to be incredible, I think.
Heavy hitters, get it? Yeah, they are both capable of knocking people out. However, let's look at Stipe. He's a more complete, well-rounded fighter. He's got a lot more time in the octagon. Francis Ngannou hasn't been out of the second round. He hasn't been anywhere near 5 rounds, whereas Stipe has. Stipe fought a great game plan when he fought Mark Hunt over in Australia, and I kind of looked at that as, Stipe might come in with a plan to weather the early storm and then try to take things over a little later.
But can you weather the storm against Francis with that punching power?
So that's the other thing. I thought Overeem had the good strategy, tie him up, get his arms tired. And Overeem let off for a second, got in a little exchange, and obviously got clipped bad. So, maybe not. We'll find out.
Yeah.
This is why heavyweight fights are interesting, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Just bear in mind, Stipe has the ability to knock anyone else on the planet out as well.
Right, sometimes people seem to be forgetting that. Also on that card, Daniel Cormier, who's again the champion of his division, will definitely have something to prove against number 2 light heavyweight, no-time Volkan Ozdemir. He is the training partner of his former foe, Rumble Johnson.
So I think you mentioned that's interesting. I think Volkan Ozdemir and Johnson are relatively similar in style, except Johnson, with the junior college wrestling, actually has maybe a more complete wrestling grappling game than Ozdemir. So I think we've seen DC implement the game plan to beat a big striker like that.
At Fight Night St. Louis, which goes down this Sunday, there's an interesting welterweight fight I'm keeping an eye on. That's number 10 Kamaru Usman versus Emil Meek. Forrest, the thing about Kamaru is we don't actually get to see him in the octagon as much as we would like, or he would like, because he said he has a really tough time getting opponents to accept a bout with him because he's on such a big win streak. Obviously, they don't want to put their record or their position in the rankings on the line.
And because he's a problem, as he said.
Meek has been training in Las Vegas. Have you been able to catch him at the PI here?
I have.
Yeah?
Looks amazing.
All right, fair enough.
No, I meant he looks amazing when he's sun tanning in 40-degree weather, which is true.
He actually does do that. He is a Viking, so apparently cold weather doesn't bother him.
Oh, 50 degrees. Let's get our shirts off and suntan it up. Love it.
Well, the St. Louis card this Sunday will also be interesting because we've got several fighters trying out new weight divisions. You've got Jessica Ai, who was ranked for a long time at bantamweight, moving to flyweight, which is her original weight class. And on that same card, Paige VanZant is coming up from strawweight, where she was number 11, to fight Jessica Rose Clark at flyweight. And Michael Johnson, already number 10 in the most talent-rich division, lightweight, is going to 145. He is an incredibly talented lightweight. What do you think his chances are at 145?
So he actually was a relatively small 155er, didn't cut a ton of weight to make 55. At 45 though, he's gonna be big, he's gonna be long, he'll still have his power. He was quick at 55, so I see him being relatively quick at 45. I think he could do really well at the 145-pound division.
All right, let's look ahead further into 2018. Forrest, who's a fighter that you think will have a breakthrough performance this year and really crack into the rankings, maybe in a way we're not expecting?
That is not a hard question. The first guy I got for you is Zabit Magomedsharipov, or just Zabit. You know him, he's looked great. They say he's a wrestler, but his striking's amazing. The word on the street from his camp is that nobody wants to spar with this kid. He has to work with bigger guys. So Zabit.
Yeah, Magomedsharipov.
Yeah, and we're gonna do like Sting and Prince and Madonna and just call him Zabit. Do you know how many Zabits are in the UFC? One. Hence, we can call him Zabit.
I love it. Okay. Well, one fighter I really expect to be in title talk soon is number 5, Marlon Moraes, especially coming off of that performance of the night against Aljamain Sterling in Fresno. I think Marlon is going to be in the title picture before 2018 is over.
My next fighter to watch is Mackenzie Dern. Now, granted, she's mostly known for her jiu-jitsu. She's probably the pound-for-pound best female jiu-jitsu artist in the world. And by probably, I mean she is. She's only had 4 or 5 fights, something like that. She's won them all, but she's going to be fighting at strawweight, so 115, and I think her strength and her size, she'll be able to capitalize on that.
Well, featherweight Josh Emmett will be another one to watch. He debuted in the rankings at number 5 after his fight against Ricardo Lamas, that vicious knockout in Winnipeg. But the real question is going to be not will he be successful inside the octagon, but can he make the weight outside the octagon?
It does take from that knockout when you miss the weight by 4 pounds like that. The fact is that you have to stay more ready than that. He had 6 weeks notice for that fight. If you can't get yourself at the weight you need to be within 6 weeks, you know, you might need to move up. So he's got to change some things about his lifestyle. He was a little short, a little small at 55, where he had most of his career. I think 45, if he gets his weight right, he could definitely be a force to be reckoned with. So the next one I got for you is Paul Acosta, or
Porachina.
Yeah. The Eraser's this nickname. He's terrifying. He's got great power, great strength. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu guy. I'm not sure about the wrestling, but what I've noticed about him is he's got amazing body quickness. So, like when Johnny went to shoot on him, he was already not there. Like, he didn't really... The best way to wrestle, if you're not a wrestler, is just don't do it. And he seems to be real good at not being in those places when he doesn't want to be. And the power in both hands he's got knockouts with, is the ultimate equalizer, right? It's the ultimate eraser, maybe? I don't know.
He actually came up to me after his last fight, or his fight against Johnny Hendricks, and told me, I'm going to be champion. You need to remember this. I'm telling you this right now. I'm going to be the champion.
I picked him as my guy to watch before you told me that, but now I'm doubling down on it.
Well, thanks for joining us. Enjoy your long weekend, and we'll see you when we're back from Boston. I'm packing a parka for this one.
I don't know about Boston, but go Dogs.
How'd they do?
Next year.